Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, one and all. I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at The Calling, a roguelike-inspired board game by Mere Pursuit. Please do bear in mind that this is a preview based off of a prototype copy. As such, nothing is finalized, and anything seen herein is subject to change. Furthermore, I do consider the designer of this game to be a friend of mine. While I will always endeavor to give my fair and honest opinions of any titles that I look at on this channel, please keep my biases in mind as you watch this video. Without any further ado, let's dive in. Set in the same continuity as Empyrean Hero in the Market, in The Calling, 1 to 4 players will be fleeing a man known only as the Suit. Falsely accused of murder, your only hope is to make your way through the horde-infested alleys and towards the mysterious river of lava known as the Flux. To set up, take the Suit and place him near the start. Keep the 6-sided dice for him near the board. Also take one of the black cubes and place it on the first space of the round tracker. If playing multiplayer, you'll also need to put the goals board within reach of all players. Each player will need to choose a miniature and place it near the alley ahead of the Suit. Each player should also take a tray of components which will include matching dice and cubes of a given color. They'll also need a player board and reference cards. After that, give each player an occupation card. Each player chooses which one they want to play as and sets their starting cubes accordingly. There are also rules for making a custom class, but it's recommended you play the game with a default class before attempting this. Each player also gets to choose one ability to start the game with. Note that some abilities may not be taken during character creation. In this case, Blue is playing as a market inspector and has chosen to take the awareness ability, which will let them avoid traps. More on that in a little bit. You'll also need the D12s to roll for hordes. Playing multiplayer, have each player take 2, but keep all of them nearby if you're playing solo. If you're challenging the game alone, that's all you need to do. If playing multiplayer, you'll also need to deal out 3 feat cards to each player. These will give you goals to pursue for extra victory points at the end of the game. You must keep at least 1 goal card, but may keep all 3 if you think you can manage it. But do be warned that every failed goal will mean you lose points at the end of the game. And with that, you're ready to begin. Turn structure in The Calling consists of 4 phases. Players may play out the first 3 phases simultaneously and independently of one another. First is the movement phase. During this phase, you'll roll a d6, add the total to your speed, and advance that many spaces down the alley. When you reach a side alley, you may choose to venture down that path. If you manage to reach any spaces with numbers on them, gain that many experience points. If you pass a space that says EK, gain an emergency kit. If you reach a reward space that's not the end of the path, you may continue down it further or turn back toward the main alley at your discretion. If you start your turn in a side alley, you may head back toward the main alley regardless of your progress. Regardless of your decisions, each player may only claim each reward space once per round. After a player is done moving, they'll move on to the encounter roll. Take a single d6 and look at the results. On a 1, you encounter a victim. If you give them an emergency kit, you may immediately move 10 spaces, following the same rules as you would during the movement phase. If you are unable or unwilling to give up an emergency kit, then you lose 3 experience. If you have less than 3, you cannot go into negatives, but will still lose whatever you have. If you roll a 2, you encounter a river guide who will help you along your way. You have the option to immediately gain 1 speed, 1 defense, or 3 HP. However, encounter rolls of 3 or higher aren't so friendly. If you roll a 3 or a 4, you've fallen victim to a trap. You'll immediately lose 2 HP. However, if you're in the main alley, you'll also gain experience. Roll 2d6 to determine how much XP you receive. Finally, if your encounter roll is 5 or 6, you'll be confronted by one of the monstrous hordes. If you're in the main alley, you can choose to retreat 3 spaces instead of fighting them. If you're unable or unwilling to take this option, you'll fight the sackcloth-clad creatures instead. First, roll a d6 for yourself and add it to your defense. Then, roll a d12 for the horde. If your defense is higher than the horde's attack, you've managed to drive them back. If you're in the main alley, then you'll gain XP equal to their attack for fending them off. If you're defeated, you'll lose HP equal to the difference between their attack and your defense. At this point, you may be wondering what happens if you ever reach 0 health. If you have an emergency kit, you can tend to your wounds. You'll lose 1 kit, but reset your HP to 1 for solo mode. In multiplayer, you'll reset your HP to 3 and also gain 3 experience in the process. If you have no emergency kits and you're playing multiplayer, then you'll take a black scar cube and reset your HP to 1. If playing solo mode, that's it. You're captured by the Suit and have lost the game. After your encounter, you'll move on to the level up phase. At this point, players may spend XP to make up to 3 purchases. In both modes, this can include HP, upgrades to speed or defense, emergency hits, or new abilities. In multiplayer, you'll also be able to gain more feat cards, spend forked scars to gain a new ability, or become Riverborn, which results in extra victory points at the cost of resetting your speed, defense, and HP to 1.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Since this is when you'll be gaining most of your abilities, let's briefly cover a few. Some like Awareness, Shadow, or Hide allow you to avoid encounters under certain conditions. Adrenaline, Insight, and Toughness allow you to gain an extra d6 when rolling for movement, traps, and defense respectively. Meanwhile, Discover and Uncover allow you to convert horde to trap encounters and vice versa. And Flex allows you to spend XP to change your encounter roll. After all players have finished their level up phase for the turn, it's time for the suit to pursue them. If this is the first turn of a multiplayer game, you'll skip this phase. But in solo mode, he comes right out the gate running at you.
The fire escape at the end of the alley, room 303.
At the onset of the game, you'll roll 1d6 and advance him that many spaces through the main alley. He will never go into the side alleys under any circumstances, but reaching a side alley with a player in it counts as catching them. If the suit catches any player, they must immediately set their HP to 0. In multiplayer, regardless of whether or not you have an emergency kit, you'll place your mini in the main alley exactly 1 space ahead of the suit. If you have an emergency kit, you may use it as you normally would when caught. Otherwise, follow all normal penalties for reaching 0 HP. This means that if you're caught without an emergency kit in solo mode, you'll lose instantly. Be sure to take note of this space on the board. Once the suit passes it, he'll permanently add a d6 to his dice pool, increasing his potential movement during every future pursuit roll. Unless you lose in solo mode, the game will continue like this until all players reach the flux. Upon reaching the flux, do not roll for an encounter, but you do get one last level up phase if you wish to make use of it. If you reach the flux before other players, then they'll continue to take turns until all players have reached it. If you're one of the first ones in, be sure to place one of your cubes on the goal board if playing multiplayer. Once all players have reached the flux, the round is over. In a solo game, you have the option of continuing in New Game Plus fashion, keeping your current stats, but facing greater challenges. Each round, the hordes will double in strength, and the suit will keep his upgraded movement, meaning he'll keep gaining more and more dice every time he passes the appropriate space on the board. For multiplayer, the game is balanced around playing 2 rounds, after which you'll count up victory points. More on that in a moment. In solo mode, you may choose to end the game after any round or attempt to go further. Thus far, I've managed to get through round 2 as a Skyrunner and round 3 as a Market Inspector in solo mode. In multiplayer, after 2 rounds, you'll count up VP. In addition to the aforementioned goals for being the first to end each round and for becoming Riverborn, there's a few other things you'll check. The player with the most HP, most emergency hits, highest speed, highest defense, most experience, and most scars at the end of the game will gain VP for each of these categories. For any ties, all tied players gain the full value of these rewards. Additionally, for each scar a player has at this point, they'll lose 1 VP. Finally, each player will need to check their feat cards. Every one they successfully completed will gain 1 VP, but for each they failed, they'll lose 1. Whoever has the most VP at this point is the winner. If there's a tie, then victory goes to the player with the fewest scars, followed by the player with the most experience. All in all, The Calling is one of those games that looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. If you ever played Zia Legends of a Drift System, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You do have a fair number of options and choices to make, but the rules are comfortably in the medium light range. What's there is quite solid, with the solo mode perfectly capturing that tension of roguelikes, making you want to retry after failing again and again. Defeat certainly stings, but you'll always want to outdo yourself. Multiplayer does change up the game quite a bit, but even so there's still actually very little player interaction. If you're opposed to multiplayer solitaire style games, this one may not be for you. That being said, if you do enjoy optimizing your score, then you'll probably enjoy it quite a bit. As this is a prototype copy, I'll not be going into component quality nor giving The Calling a formal review score at this time. What I can say is that it's an exciting adventure with more depth than there first seems to be on the surface, not unlike the Flux itself. The Calling is currently aiming for a Kickstarter launch on September 1st. If you're interested in backing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of The Calling? What solo games do you enjoy? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.